Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Pivotal Podspective. It's me, Elliot Brown, your host, and my co-host, of course, the co-host and marketing extraordinaire, digital marketing extraordinaire, Adrian Darabantu.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Elliot. Hello, Becca. And yeah, below us, we're going to have Becca.
We've got Becca, our marketing extraordinaire, Rebekkah Anderson from Minnesota. How are you, Becca?
Originally from Finland.
Caveat, right?
Yeah. And we've just talked about weather because it's a little bit sticky here and humid. Although we've had a really hot spell and then a cool spell, and now we're humid. And we've been talking about your minus 40 degrees temperature. Not that it is there today, but you get some pretty extreme temperatures where you are, right?
Yeah. Last week, actually, we did a 40-degree swing from one temperature to another. It wasn't quite snowing, but it got really close, and then it swung all the way back to being really, really hot. So
wow. Okay. Well, listen, the weather's not too bad here at the moment. So I just want to say hi to everybody that's watching, listening, whether you're watching this now live, which is on Facebook, my personal Facebook page, Essex Business Radio's Facebook page, and the Essex Business Radio group, along with the Essex Business Radio YouTube and Twitter accounts as well. So hi to everybody that is going to be joining us, and hi over here on Instagram as well. So if I do a little wave like this, Becca, that's because I'm just waving to a couple of people that pop up on Insta as well. We're trying to get out everywhere. It's like Essex Business Radio on demand. And if you don't know what the Pivotal Podspective is, well, we're getting guests and guest extraordinaires in from all over the world to chat about their pivotal ideas, things, tips, tricks, ideas, and ways that they use to help their clients, or that they use to help level business up and help grow, so we can adopt, adapt, and improve. How's that? That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It's I don't think any of us could say it better. Yes.
Okay, don't sound too bloody excited. Whatever you do, Jesus. So, Becca, tell us a little bit about Wise Elephant Consulting, which is your business. I know you've got a podcast as well, and we'll have a chat about that. But tell us a little bit about you and your business, and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, so I've almost been in business for about 2 years now.
Yeah.
And my business is named Wise Elephant Consulting because I believe it is wise to talk about the elephant in the room. Oh,
I like it.
And usually it has to do something with money and accountability.
And you definitely work with creating accountability processes with your clients, right?
Yes, I specifically focus in the area of marketing, and then within that, talking about how to create accountability processes and a good understanding of what your business brand is, so that you can hold accountability to anyone within your company that is representing the brand, as well as any kind of agency or subcontractor that you do your marketing with.
Okay. And you've 2 years you've been doing this. You've been in marketing for what, sort of 5 years, you said?
Yeah, around there. Maybe a little. It depends on, probably around 5 years. I have to think about it, but yeah. So quite some time for sure.
And you so you just got a flair for this already, have you? You just fitted into this groove, and you sort of got a bit of an understanding and how you can help different businesses. You started off in the construction industry, I believe.
Yeah, so worked for another company for a while as the business insights manager. Yeah. And within that, just helping a lot of different companies. And one of the really interesting things that I found commonly when people would talk to me is, oh, I don't even want to talk about marketing because I've just gotten just torn up about it so many times, or I trusted somebody and they just completely destroyed me. And a lot of things that I see happen, which are really unfortunate, are these people who just are really catty in the end when they are a marketing subcontractor or a business, where they say, well, you dropped a contract with us, well, then we're going to hold your website hostage and you have to pay a fee, like a crazy amount of money to get it out, or you have an employee leave, and because they're angry, they just steal your domain name.
Yeah.
and sell it off. And stuff like that happens, and not a lot of people like to talk about that it happens, but a lot of business owners really struggle talking about marketing with marketing professionals because they've been burned so many times.
Yeah. Listen, that was a comment that grabbed my attention. When you sent over some notes and bits and pieces like that before coming on the show, was about people getting burned, and you're absolutely right. There are a lot of people that do, and they shy away from it, particularly if they're not in an organization that's big enough to go, well, we've got a budget for this, or this is definitely part of what we've got to do. A lot of small business owners, micro businesses, as they're definitely being coined the phrase at the moment, they're the people that get burned the most, because they sort of you get to work with somebody, you quite like what they're saying, and then they fuck you over in essence, and so and you're right, they get completely burned, and then they're scared of the marketing side of things, which is one of the biggest parts of the business that everybody needs to push these days. So how do you get around that? I mean, you're saying the pivotal way is the accountability. Talk to us a little bit about how that works and how you work with your clients on that.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we talk about is first identifying what the core values are within the business, and then that usually segues into, okay, well, what is your voice, and what is your terminology? Like, are you okay with people saying that you are? Are you like these different characteristics? And then we really dig into terminology, like what kind of nouns do you use for yourself? Are they customers, or your customers? Are they customers? Are they clients? Yeah. And those kind of things. And once you kind of have that good list of, okay, this is what we call us, this is what we call them, and then these are kind of the verbs that we use, the pronoun, whatever. And then from there, you can say, okay, now that we have a good base of different terminology, it's a lot easier for another person to step in and use those terms to be able to describe the business. And then what I find commonly, especially if you hire somebody, and especially somebody who's creative, I don't know why creative is a little bit, I mean, I could see why you would hate to get put in a box, but if you don't have some kind of guidelines and structure, what ends up happening is it really comes down to a lot of feelings getting hurt, and then people quitting in a huff. And it's like, no, you're just, I mean, I understand your personality, but that's not our brand's personality. That's not our business. You can't talk to our customers that way.
Yeah.
And so understanding that and having policies in place first and foremost really eliminates a lot of those emotional issues. And it's just like, no, let's get back to what we set in place. This is it. And I really like your creativity, but let's structure it around what we already have established. Yeah.
So very much. So I think what you're trying to say is very much the language that you use in your content and the way that you put yourselves across. Your messaging, I suppose, is the way I would maybe class it. But then also understanding who does what, and as you said, not to make it personal. When you get micro business owners do sometimes get a bit personal about their business and don't get their messaging right. Is that sort of where you're going with that?
Yeah, I think part of it is when it's your baby, you have so many things you want to hold on to, but then it's also like, okay, if you're going to grow, you need to learn to delegate. Yeah. Because you will never get past a certain point unless you can delegate these processes, and you need to be able to know that those processes are going to be executed well.
Yeah, for sure. So by accountability, now we all know, I think, that if you have some accountability, it keeps things on track a little bit. How do you work that? How does that work? If you're creating, a process, an accountability process, go on, explain to me how you utilize that to be your thing that really gets those relationships working well.
Yeah, basically, me and Elliot are your new clients, right? So just practice on us, yeah.
Yeah, just practice on us.
Okay. Yeah, so
we're not going to put you on the spot at all, but yeah, do it.
Usually, what I start out with is an audit. Yeah. We go through what they already are doing and like what channels they're using, why they're using them, what their target market is. If they have any of that stuff, we go through it and we look at it, and then we're looking at their numbers. Yeah. So if they have like Google Analytics or any kind of metrics within their Facebook page, all of that, we're looking at the data. And we're seeing, okay, so what's performing well and why is it performing well? But also, is this even the market that we're trying to go after?
Yeah.
Because if you get like tons of likes and comments and shares, that's awesome. But if it's all because they're like young moms and you're really not looking for that group, but you're looking for business owners, that's a completely different group, right?
Yeah, of course.
So why is it? Is it just because all of your friends and family liked your business page? That's not helpful in some ways, right? So for smaller people, like they really have to start thinking through return on investment of their time.
Yeah.
And so then we look at, okay, here's all the platforms, but we can't be everything to every person. How are you going to niche yourself and know what you're selling? And then how can you sell it well and create the different materials that are going to support that long term?
Yeah. That's not the easiest process. And funny enough, Adrian and I have been talking about this today. This isn't the easiest process. To step back away from your business, or as I like to call it, a helicopter view, isn't always the easiest when, you are a one-man band, or even a business of 2, 3 or 4, 5 people where that's grown over a few years. That takes a little bit of work, doesn't it? To work with somebody to get them to understand what their messaging should be, not what they think it is, or that it should be, but what it actually should be for the market. The differentiator, I love that word. I use it a lot, but differentiators are key, aren't they? In be able to get them to see, that's why I'm different from somebody else. That's what we need to put forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think within that, it's definitely one of those things where you have to understand that there's a difference between your personal brand and your business brand. And not a lot of people know that the two are separate.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you've got this client, you've got us as a client, for example, and we're now clear that we're hosts. We're hosting a show, and we're going to go out to a business audience. So we know where we are there, and the business audience that we want to get out to is people that are looking to improve themselves and their businesses. So then how do you then make that accountable? Do you then sort of set things in place so you've got a structure for what they then do next, and then you both look at that and review it? Is that how you would work? I mean, I'm just asking. I have no idea.
No, yeah. So it all depends on like the channels of their audience. So I mean, with like a small business owner audience, you're going to have different areas that they're going to hang out versus a completely different demographic. So you have to first find what's going to be profitable. If you're looking for small business owners that are just specifically in one age group, you might be checking out Instagram versus LinkedIn, right? So knowing
versus what?
Instagram versus LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn. Sorry, I lost the sounds there. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so knowing where the value is in your time investment is important, and then creating processes of what kind of content, like creating those calendars of content, or knowing what kind of variations within those, whether it's differences between the medium that you're using, or how you engage, and creating variety within that. So those are like processes parts that I put together with them. And then from there, the implementation aspect is figuring out, helping them understand their return on investment. So looking at the numbers, analyzing it, and then teaching them how to actually basically be a marketing director for their business. So that, because a lot of times what ends up happening is they say, okay, I have these processes. And if you just take a process and you say, I just need this every single time, and then you pass it off to someone who says, no problem, I can do that. But they're really not putting the lifeblood into it. They're just repeating the task over and over, and it's looking like it's canned. It doesn't represent anything besides content that's worthless, right? Knowing how to keep that person accountable by actually looking at the numbers and saying, why is this not working? And let's figure out a good way to do it together. Comes back to, a lot of times too, I see a lot of business owners say, well, I paid them a whole bunch of money. Why aren't they doing anything? But and then you come back and say, well, they asked you for all this information and they can't do their job unless you help them.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue as well. And I try to be very blunt with people, like kindly blunt, I like to call it.
Oh, really?
But just say, you know what, like, this is a two-way street on marketing, because it's a relationship. They can't say this is who you are if they don't even know you. And that comes down to knowing the business and the services they provide. And you can't get that as a marketer unless they're giving you the insight onto what their expertise is.
Absolutely. You need content, whether it's verbal or written or audio, or where you need content from them or help them to create it. So you absolutely need their help, because you can't produce everything. Otherwise, you might as well be running their business for them.
And I also think you need them to be kind of open to you as well, and talk about their business quite open. That's why once I've actually asked a client, why did you start this? Tell me your whole family history and all that, because I just want to know how they started. It was an interesting business, right? But then it kind of helped me create an image in my head of what they do, how they do it, and why, and all that thing. So some business owners, they're very reluctant in actually doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a difficult thing. I think some people think, there's often a story behind people setting businesses up, aren't there? And if you can get to that, people love a story. Stories sell. We know that from all of us doing marketing and things. We know that stories sell these days, and people love a story. That's why podcasts work so well, because people tend to talk about what they do, and people want to listen to. They want to find out things. They want to find out the people that have created the business, because there's more depth to it. And that's where I think marketing has become a lot more approachable, I think, in certain ways. But you've got to be clever as well, haven't you, Becky? You've got to be clever in how you put that content out. As you said, different platforms, you do different things. On TikTok, you're not necessarily going to put on TikTok, if you're going for a 20 to 30-year-old audience, you're not going to put the same things on there as you would on LinkedIn, for obvious reasons. But it isn't always that obvious to everybody, is it? They just want to flood their social media with as many things as they can.
But just to understand this process a bit, you're saying, so you create these processes at the beginning, and you follow them together with the business owner for a while, just for the business owner to get the idea of it, and then he can delegate, or the business owner can delegate the task to various people in the company.
Yep. Or sometimes people hire subcontractors for that. Okay.
So also from your experience, I'm just curious, that's a personal curiosity, but I think it's going to help everyone. In small, medium company, how many people do you think they're required in marketing and the aspects of it?
It depends on the business owner's personality.
Okay. I'm gonna say on my and my personality and Elliot's, but we don't know each other that well. Probably for you to know our personality yet. Okay.
Yeah, so I would say for small business, honestly, like there's very micro businesses that they could do it themselves in a lot of ways. But then as they grow, that can be a part-time job, but then a lot of times that rolls into a full-time job as they get to larger sets, maybe like 10 employees. You're probably looking at trying to look for someone, but it really depends on the structure of the business, because a lot of times your sales team is really good at supporting marketing. So if you have a strong sales focused business, a lot of the content that they're finding, if they're working together well, you can actually have less time in marketing because the sales team is giving you the content to be able to do the marketing piece well.
Okay. Oh, really? I see that. That's got to be a difficult one. I would have said that's a difficult way around to do it. That the sales provide the stuff for the marketing. I would have thought it was flipped round these days. That the marketing is almost the provides everything for the sales. No, is that not how you look at it?
I think I think that salespeople need to be good at understanding marketing and how to utilize the tools.
They do these days more than ever before. They never did before. People didn't, You've been doing this for a few years. I mean, I've obviously been in sales sort of 20, 30 years and go back, 20 years ago when I was on the road and I'm selling, we didn't need to know marketing. There was no marketing. You did your own marketing by knocking doors and speaking to people. But now, of course, the knocking doors is doing this, isn't it? Or putting posts out on through social media
Well, and if you think about just in terms of Google, for example, when you type in a Google search, you'll see there's that little drop down area that says people also asked, and then there's all these questions. Yeah. Now, as a salesperson, you're your own little Google person. As a marketing person, you can go up to a salesperson and say, what did people also ask? Yeah. And those are the questions that you should be creating content on.
Yeah.
Because when you have, I mean, from a marketing perspective, you can create tons of stuff using social media or whatever, but that's really top of the funnel. And your salespeople are addressing the issues that people want to know right before they buy. And so you have to be able to work both sides to be able to provide the full funnel of content available for people to research on their own before they're ready to convert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read a really good book, to be honest, in the last few months. It's called They Ask You Answer. And basically the guy, that's exactly what he was saying. So no, he's a sales guy that provide the marketing guys the material just because they'll deal with the clients on daily basis, right? And they can put together all the frequently asked questions, all the fears of the people that are thinking to buy and all that. And then the marketing team can create the products to overcome all those questions and fears of the potential buyer.
Yeah, I don't do reading, as we well know. Well, you wouldn't know, Becca. I don't. I haven't read a book for years. I gain all the knowledge I need from everybody around me and ask as many questions as I can. We're just going to do a couple of comments. And anybody that's only listening to this as an audio podcast, you want to absolutely go and check this out on YouTube as well, or Facebook, where we do it live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with our extraordinaire guests. My mum always sends a message. So I have to say her. So she's one of my biggest fans. And she's now stalking you on Facebook, Adrian.
Hello, Elias mom. Yeah, I have no problem with that. Don't worry.
We got a few people over on Instagram as well. Heady Heart says we need to be loading up more podcasts. I am behind on that. I do sincerely apologise. Rolly's Ice Creams, IP Essex, and AMC Electrical Essex as well. Hi on Instagram. We really probably need to be putting this out on Instagram as well, but the format doesn't work, Becca. It doesn't really work very well.
Maybe Becca has a solution.
Do you have a solution, Becca?
Well, we usually do like an image graphic for our podcast for Instagram that says what the episode title is and then what episode it number. And so we share those on Instagram and refer them back and forth so people remember there's a new one out.
But lives, I mean, we're going live out across 5 platforms, and obviously Instagram here, which is just showing me, and I'm sure people want to see more than me, in fact. But we can actually broadcast this out over on Instagram as well. And this may sound like we're going off subject, but in fact, this is also a way people can market their business. And you will do that to get yourself out to an audience. Adrian and I will do that because we just love talking to people. But it is a way of doing it. We will be broadcasting out on Instagram as well. And we have Leanne Turner also. Hi, Leanne. We're with Leanne, and I'm sure she's going to be coming on the show as well. So what else then, Becca? What else is it that you do that really gets the blood flowing with your clients? And
how do you keep them accountable? Yeah. So how do you keep them accountable? Because we know some people are lazy or this.
Don't look at me. What are you looking at me for?
Well, no, yeah, for no reason.
So I'll tell you, this is how I have a process for how I do business too. And a lot of people will come to me and say, oh, I really need help with this or whatever. And even before I take them as a client, I say, okay, do this, 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 and this. And then, so I give them that free first, like, here you go. This is free consulting. This is what you need to go do. And for me, it's really more of a test to see if they're going to do it. Because if they're the type of person that's not going to do it, and then they keep asking me, oh yeah, like I just really need you to come into my business and do this, I'm not going to take them as a client. And the reason for that is because I have just seen so many times where those people leave and they just say so many horrible things about you and how you didn't do your job or whatever. But it's really because they didn't do anything and expected you to do stuff. Yeah. And so even with that, like I'll tell people, okay, this is what you need to go do. And if they actually come back and they said, I did everything you told me to do. And even within that, like just the first things are give me all of these different files, find these things, fill this out, whatever. And if they can't do that, I know right then this is not a good fit for both of us because you're not going to be happy in the end. And I know I'm not going to be happy because you're going to be a really high maintenance person that doesn't get what you want. So, and
we've all had those, haven't we? You think, yeah, I can do this for them. I can help them out with that. And they sound all excited about it, but genuinely, they actually just want you to do everything for them. And when you don't do everything for them, in fact, as I said earlier on, you may as well be running their business for them. Then they get the don't they? I mean, what's all that about?
I've recently heard a web developer tell me that people would like champagne on a Coke diet.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So within that, though, that's one thing I do, and then from there, when I do talk with people to keep them accountable, every meeting that I have with them, I set specific homework items that they're responsible for doing. Either it's learning something or it's doing a specific action that I say, okay, coming away from this, these are the things you need to get done.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we start that next meeting, we're talking about the homework, and it's, what did you do? And if they're saying, oh, I didn't get any of this done, sometimes I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? You're not allowed to meet with me until you have your stuff accomplished, because it's a waste of your money.
I can see that. I can see the teacher in her, doing this. So yeah, I kind of recognize that.
I'm all about saving people money, and I want to make sure it's a good investment for them, and they realize, like, no, this is your money. I want you to use it wisely.
Yeah. Listen, I think being harsh is a good thing. Blatant honesty is I'm sort of known for, but I think you've got to be harsh with people. You've got to be straight with them, because if they're not going to get that work done, as you said, one, it's going to come back on you. It's a reflection on what you do, and if you let it slip, and I've done it before with clients. I've let stuff slip, and you then repeat the stuff for the second month, and then the third month you're repeating the same things, and they're not really getting it, and then you've almost lost control of it. Whereas with the accountability, not just so people that are going to be watching or listening and seeing this, but to understand it from both sides, it's a good thing to have. It's the fact that you're conscious that they're not doing those things, that you need to get results. And so they've got to toe the line, so to speak, haven't they, Becca?
Well, and I think it's honestly, like, it's the best thing I can do for someone else, because there's too many people out there that will promise so many things and underdeliver because they take on too much, or they say, I'm going to do all this for you, but when the client's not cooperating, you can't deliver. And I don't want to be that person that can't deliver for them. So it's doing them a favor to not have them spend money that could be wasted, because that's what I'm passionate about, is good return on investment. Well,
that's Adrian. You're definitely like that, aren't you? You want you spend your clients' money very, very wisely, very tight with other people's money, which is a good thing.
Very greedy. I don't let them all spend on anything, even if it's like $5 more expensive than the other one. Doesn't matter. Yeah. I think it's good, and I think customers usually appreciate things like that. Although, sometimes they say, we have to do this. Stop overthinking and just go with that. No, let me find the best solution, and then we can move on. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Do you agree with that, Becca? Do you? I mean, I know marketing is very much about trying things out, and and then tweaking it, and repeating it, and maybe tweaking it a little bit more, and repeating it, and learning by it. Do you sometimes just have to just go for it sometimes, and then learn, or are you a little bit like Adrian, where you've got to prep it and analyze it, and then go? I mean, because there's different ways of looking at this. I don't know that there's a wrong and a right necessarily, and marketing is all about learning and trying things out. What's your view on that?
So I think there's two parts to it. There's one part that's like, you should make informed decisions based on data. And if you have data, then you have a place to start. And if a company doesn't have any data, period, then you're using what the industry data is and what benchmarks are out there. And then you're saying, okay, this is what this looks like for an email click-through rate on an industry average, or whatever it is. So this is where we're going to set our bar, so we know what it is. And then we're going to try from there, knowing that these things perform well within our target market. Now, if you can do that first, then you can try stuff. But you try stuff within the realm of what's acceptable for that specific demographic. So I guess there's like that aspect. And then the other aspect of you just got to do it is where commonly I see people have issues is insecurity, even in just themselves, of, well, are people really going to trust what I have to say? And I look at some of these business owners and I'm like, you realize you're running like a $1 million company. People are going to want to know what you have to say. And you need to be confident in it. And I see that a lot of times where people don't want to do like a Facebook Live or whatever, because they're just like, well, what if I mess up? And it's like, okay, mess up, accept that you just messed up, correct yourself in the video, and then just keep going. And so I think there's two different things to that, because sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just going to have to post this video, even though it's not, my hair's not perfect, I messed up a word, whatever. So there's definitely that. There's that side of it for sure.
Either is. I mean, listen. I've put lines on the lawn from doing lives a couple of years ago, trying to get them right, and then never posted them out. But if you don't try these things and don't do it, even if you never ever post the video and it just becomes practice, you do still move ahead. So and it's the same with other things. But going back to what you were saying about sort of owners of the business and people wanting to hear from them. That definitely is the world right now. Yet there are still people that think very differently. I mean, I was talking to somebody about web advertising, doing videos and things like that recently, because we're in that arena and we're looking very closely at these things right now because of the way the things have changed. And somebody said to me that you'd get a spokesperson to do, because you can do a lot of spokesperson type adverts in America, that you'll get them popping up where it's an attorney, obviously, or a solicitor, as we call them in the UK, and they'll come up as a spokesperson. It's not the person that's in the business, but they're doing that and they're talking about the company. Do you think? I mean, this is maybe off subject a little bit, but we went on to it. Do you think that's still current? Do you think it would be better as the actual person that runs the business, or somebody in a decent position that's respected? What's your view on that?
Well, I think the first thing I jump to would be like those medical commercials where it's like in the corner, it's like paid actor.
Yes.
Not actual. And they're like, oh yeah, use this. And you're like, okay, your digestive tract, really? Because you're an actor. And like, because those are the people I don't want to hear from, right? Yeah. Especially if it comes to my health. But yeah, so those aspects are definitely things to be thinking about. I think you can definitely take a good example of this would be Gary Vee, even, and how he is the spokesperson for what he does. And people take his advice seriously. Yeah. Because first of all, he knows what to say and he's practiced it many times. But I do think that where people get nervous is that they're going to say the wrong thing. And I think that the more you're thinking about what you're going to say and you practice it in your head all the time, the easier it will come out with more comprehension than if you never practice and a camera gets thrust in your face in the midst of a crisis.
Yeah, definitely. And authenticity. Listen, authenticity is the biggest thing right now, I believe. It's, being authentic. So yeah, you practice, but be yourself as well. Yes, and you can make little mistakes. I know you're saying about, trying to get things right, and you have. And the more practice you do, the more you do these things. So, but not just talking about this on a video point of view, but in the posts that you do, the way you write things, and you'll go back to, the language and the messaging that you were saying about before. It's really important to be very, very authentic in what you're saying as well, and have something to back it up. So if there is a website, there is some information that it backs up what you're putting out there as well. That's I think is a really important thing. And more than ever over the last few months with the things that have happened, I do believe that you're seeing a lot more authentic content out there, a lot more. And even the guys that aren't very authentic are trying to make it look authentic as well.
Exactly. But I also think, in these days, brands need to have someone behind them, because people like to connect with people, not necessarily with brands and all that, right? So if you come out as the main person, the CEO, president, director, whatever you want of that company, and you have a nice message and people see that it's a genuine person behind the brand, you're going to create some trust and some fans through the community. Do you agree with that, Becca?
I think as a business owner, you have an opportunity every day. Every decision is an opportunity to reflect your character. And if you're not doing that in your personal life, and then you're going out there and you're posting something on social media like, oh, this is what I stand for, and everyone around you is like, I've never seen you do anything about that. I think that's unfortunate that happens, and it's hypocrisy, but it's really easy to see through even within your own employees. And I remember even when I was very young going to a conference, and it was a speaker speaking to a bunch of youth, and he was a business consultant. He said, you know what, I had an employee I had a company I was working with that they just had turnover like crazy. People were stealing, they were lying, all this stuff. And I could not figure out what was going on within the business. And then one day the business owner just broke down because I was like, I don't know what else to do with your business. And he said, oh, well, I've been cheating on my wife with my secretary. And
hey.
I mean, like, that's huge to company culture. If you're making decisions in your own personal life, they have monetary impacts, let alone character impacts on everyone else around you and their respect for you.
Yeah. But
so I bet everyone in the company knew that, and that's why they kind of lost any form of respect, for that guy or anything like that. So okay, got it. Yeah, that's why me and Ellie, we don't have secretaries.
I did wonder what you were going to say then. When it started off with sec, I was thought, what are you going to say now? No, we don't have secretaries, no. Well, actually, yeah, I sort of do now, actually, in fact. But assistants, I think, not secretaries.
Yeah.
I'm too old to be doing that sort of stuff these days. When you're a sales guy back in the day, it doesn't really matter, does it? But when you're running things, you've got to have some sort of, people got to respect you. So you've got to treat people how you expect to be treated. But that's not how it works in the corporate world. A lot of the times, as you see, this happens. People end up doing things with staff. I'm sure that's going to resonate with many people.
Well, I think what's unfortunate too, actually, I was just listening to, I think it was Tech Tent by BBC. They had said that 25% of people who work in the technology field leave a business because of something unethical that's happened, and they don't want to fight about it. They just leave.
Oh, really?
And I think that's unfortunate that we're at the point where we don't even feel like we can stand up and say, this is wrong. There's no point in fighting it. That's the way they're going to be, and I'm just going to move on.
Yeah. I don't know.
I also think because there are quite loads of opportunities these days, and if you're not happy with something, if you're not fully happy with something from the beginning, then there's no point in even trying to correct things further more than that, and you just leave. I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you mean as in the let's say a disgruntled employee where there's something that just won't change, so they just leave? Is that what you meant there?
I don't think it was disgruntled. It was experiencing. It was a specific episode on ethics. So look it up, because I said 25%, but it might be like 22% or something.
Oh, okay.
I'll
check it out.
No, yeah, but I think the idea behind that is, let's say if I get a job that maybe it's just a job that I got, so nothing that I've always dreamed all my life, right? And there were some promises at the beginning. They have not really been fulfilled. And then when I see something like that, something unethical, that's just probably the last drop. And anyway, I'm not happy here. So what the hell? I'm just going to leave anyway. There are plenty of other places.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and not just in tech or IT. I've seen it.
Yeah, I was going to say everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think that comes back to business owner accountability too, because I mean, if you don't have good processes in place in general for your staff and for yourself to make sure you're accountable, then things can easily, you can miss things that other employees are doing if you don't have some kind of check and balance.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, as boring as it sounds, the way to scale, grow, and continue to grow, and be able to see the growth and understand how and where to grow, whether you're utilizing marketing, whatever it is in the business, processes and systems are an absolute must. Because how do you control the business? It's not about controlling, but you need to control elements of the business, and without processes and systems, how do you do that? You can't just write it on a board and off you go. You've got to set things up, haven't you? And you do that very much with the processes you set up for your accountability for your clients. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if there was another question in there you had for me on that one.
No. I was just making a point, to be honest. You clearly didn't come across very well.
Okay.
So also you were talking about having brand manuals as well, and so that's something that you sort of said about, not something we've spoken about already. What this is before the show. What do you class as a brand manual? What is that? Do you have sort of colors and bits and pieces in there? I mean, is it like a swatch of different things, for want of a better description?
So brand manual has quite a few different components in it. I recommend everyone has one. If you look up, like most universities or whatever, they have their own brand manual, perfectly accessible a lot of times, that you can just look at and see what they tell people about themselves. And with major companies, they have a huge brand, and then they have sub brands and all this other stuff. But as a business owner, what you need to know, I mean, you need to have consistency within what you're representing, and even knowing your color code numbers, having those like in a spreadsheet, just so easily accessible. If you're going to design something, make sure that whoever is designing it is doing it with the right information to begin with, because there's so many times I see people have like even different logos, and they're saying, oh, we'll use this one. Oh, but we actually created that one probably like in the 70s, and now we're using this logo, but we use them interchangeably. And those kind of things where it's like people are knowing you by different names. I once had an audit within a company that had 20% of the staff interviewed, and they had 13 different names represented.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, nobody knows what your company name is. So how are you even representing yourself to your customers? And what does that look like for your cost structure? Because if someone has to look you up in their inventory system or whatever, and they're searching 13 different names, that's money right there being wasted. And so even in things like that, knowing what your brand is helpful to every part of your company to save money, and to make sure that people are being consistent with where that brand is showing up. So having rules within your brand manual on, here's what we do, here's what we don't do. And honestly, I've seen a lot of, especially for companies in construction, that they have construction trucks and they let their guys use trucks or whatever. Sometimes those trucks are going places that you do not want your company being seen, or driving above the speed limit or whatever. And so a lot of people are turning to putting different speedometer checkers and GPS tracking within the vehicles, but that's a representation of your brand.
Of course.
So knowing what's happening with who's wearing your brand inside the company and outside is very important to having consistency in your representation.
Definitely.
That's a very good point. And by that, I also get the fact that everyone in the company should be aware about that brand manual, including the cleaner lady or the clean lady or the janitor, wherever it is, or the delivery driver. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brand manual is a very useful tip. It's a very useful tool. It's you're absolutely right. Everybody that works for the business represents it, and they should be clear on who they're representing. If it's a department or a part of the business that is one brand, then they need to represent it clearly, I suppose, to whoever they speak to and however they deal with things. And you're absolutely right. And I know it may sound silly to people because they may know the name of the color. I know the orange. I know all of the colors that are for Essex Business Radio and the business. And Adrian will know exactly what he knows for what he does for his business as well. It's important to know those things because it's got to be uniform. If people start recognizing they're going to recognize colors, they're going to recognize that branding, and it is very, very important. In fact, I have to say, Becca, that you speak a great deal of sense in the marketing arena and the branding and the way you work with people. A great deal more sense than people I've dealt with over the years that have been going way longer than you. So kudos to you for the way you work. I like the way you work, and I like the processes and things that you said that you put in place with your clients. I think that's going to bring you huge success from here on out as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes a couple of years into your business. And I think you're going to go from strength to strength. What do you reckon, Adrian?
I definitely agree. So I really enjoyed what she said. And then we have very similar way of thinking. So yeah, definitely.
For sure.
But no, I think we should ask her. So you have we talk about this quite a bit, and now I just want to say you have a podcast as well.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. As if you could read my mind, Adrian. Over here.
It looks like we know each other.
So, yes, you have a podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is actually co-hosted by my sister, and we talk about business. So it's Business Talk Sister Gawk. Yeah. And we gawk about something silly or stupid at the end of every episode. But if you are a business owner and you have children that are in high school or in college, that is the group that we talk to about starting businesses and trying it out. Low risk, understanding what's valuable and cost structures, whatever. We do all of that. We demystify business so that young people can try it for themselves.
I love that. That's our future generation of entrepreneurs, isn't it? Business owners and enterprise students, etc. And gawking, as you said, is literally what to be surprised, right?
Well, we usually talk about a story about our childhood or something that's happened that is embarrassing. A lot of business owners that we interview actually share an embarrassing story from their life or like a funny story. And really? One time we interviewed somebody and we said he was a storage unit owner, and we said, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen? And he was like, one time I found a 5-gallon pail of boiled eggs. And we were like, what?
And that's the strangest thing.
Yeah, so like stuff like that, where it's just like we just laugh about it. It's interesting. Or a lot of business owners have really funny things they've experienced in their life, and just from customer problems to whatever. And so we love talking about with them. And it's good to know. Like, I mean, you can have failures and still succeed in business.
Well, not if, when we all fail. It's all about it's the failing that you learn from. That's what it's all about, and it's about learning from those failures, getting up, and then getting on and trying it again, but just doing it slightly differently. Yeah,
so that's what we do every episode. At the end, we talk about something ridiculous because we know that we are really easily entertained, so we have to entertain other people too.
yeah, definitely. We'll be checking that out. And where else can everybody find you, Becca? Where can they find you on social and your website, etc.?
Yeah, so we have our Instagram and Facebook for Business Talk Sister Gawk, as well as Facebook for my business Wise Elephant Consulting. You can also check us out on LinkedIn. And I believe my personal Instagram you can follow too. It is Rebekkah Anderson.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll make sure there's some links around the video and other bits and pieces that are going to be going up, of course, as well. Thank you very much. I think that's definitely had a few pivotal things in there, Rebekkah, this evening. I've learned some stuff as well, and I love the way you work. So I think there's going to be a lot for people to learn from what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
I've seen loads of structure, ethical stuff there as well, and good processes. So I think that's a very good way.
Very cool indeed. Thank you very much, Rebekkah Anderson of Wise Elephant Consulting and Business Talk and Sister Gawk. Is it Business Talk Sister Gawk or Business Talk and Sister Gawk?
Business Talk Sister Gawk.
So without the end. Okay.
So you want to check that out, and from Minnesota, and where it is a little bit mild today, so not as cold as it can get, but similar to the UK in temperature, just not quite as cold as Minnesota, I'm pleased to say. My mother was saying it was lovely and sunny there, but it always is in bloody Spain, so I don't feel sorry for her when it rains.
Yeah, 5 days per year, definitely.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Adrian, thank you very much for co-hosting again this evening. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Becca, thank you. If you want to know more about Essex Business Radio, then you can check us out on all our social media, pretty well every platform, Essex Business Radio, except Twitter, which is Essex Biz Radio, BIZZ. YouTube, of course, you may be watching this on YouTube. If not, and you're listening to this, then go over there, subscribe, and put your alerts on, or whatever you do on there. I don't know. Something like that. It's all good anyway. We've been really enjoyed having Becca on this evening or morning or afternoon, wherever it is you guys are. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. And we're going to sign off for now. So I'm going to say ciao for now.
Brown cow.